he shouldn't have a house.
The pay differential never seems to close, and the World Economic Forum found that if we continue at our current pace, it will take 100 years to close the global gender gap. So we literally cannot do that long.
They're not afraid of poor musicians. They're afraid of you.
Welcome to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We are on a new platform, which is crazy. We haven't done this before, so this is a whole new living experience for us. We have moved over to Twitch for the live streams. We will still be putting our audio out on Spreaker and on Podbean and on Discord and wherever else you want to be able to find us. But we are essentially going to be moving all of our live streams to Twitch. And it's kind of funny because normally I would say, hey, we would never do that because it's Twitch, right? But I've made so many cool friends that talk about politics on Twitch that it seems like a new space for us to invade this year. So tonight we got a really awesome episode, the fact that it is our first Twitch stream. We are going to have DeepKick David on, and he's going to be joining us to tell us a little bit about his show, why he streams, video games, why he's a leftist, and why he wanted to come on our show. We're also going to be talking about the new federal holiday, which to me is just amazing because I've asked for this for years now, and I cannot believe that we finally got it, and I'm not super excited about the Biden administration, but at least we got Juneteenth as a federal holiday, and I'm waiting to see if our company is going to retroactively do something for us, and I already emailed our HR, said, hey, this is a federal holiday, you should be giving us one extra paid day of vacation off this year, so we'll see how well that goes over at my company. But either which way, we're also going to talk a little bit about the Manchin Leaked Tapes. I don't know if that's how you say it. I'm sure Hanna will correct me here in a few seconds.
Oh, yeah. Joe Manchin. That's it.
We are going to talk a little bit about as well. Without further ado, though, let's bring everybody into the stream. There we go. Welcome to our Twitch stream, everyone. How are you all tonight?
Good.
So I'll introduce first. The person above me is DeepKick David. You can find him over on Twitch at DeepKick David on Twitch. To my left is the handsome Hansel the Engineer. And on the top right, or the top left, we have Buddy the Lumberjack.
Wow, that's a much different setup than what I'm used to. I'm used to being able to see how it's all set up, like on my main screen, and now it's actually set up the right way over to my so it's just like, what?
Yeah. And it's
neat.
It's a whole different setup, man. And I'll teach you one of these days. I will actually teach you how to do it, and then you can run the damn stream, and I could just sit here and look pretty. Like, that's what I want to do. I just want to look pretty one of these times. Ugh. Anyway, with that being said, Hanna, how was your week?
Pretty good. I mean, the whole family is sick. They're all sick. Everyone is like sniffling and coughing and a little bit of temperature in. And so we were doing the at-home tests to make sure everybody was COVID-free because the girls, my two daughters, haven't been vaccinated, obviously, because they're 3 and 5, and they haven't opened up that age group yet. So negative. So we're just the flu. They started doing things again, so they went swimming and playing with friends and stuff. So like it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like one of those weeks where the thunderstorms came through. I worked on the house as much as I could, but it was just I'm just right now, Mr. Mom, taking care of like the house is an absolute mess. As soon as I'm done here, I got to clean the whole thing. But other than that, it's just kind of a adulting weekend.
Oh, fun. Buddy, how about you?
So I took a long weekend because on Saturday my wife decided she wanted to do her and her friend had decided they were going to try this trail that equates to a half marathon, about 23 kilometers, and it's in the mountains. So it's not just flat, level, straight, and all that. Now there's uphill, downhill, and wildlife that can eat you. if you don't pay attention. Now, obviously, I'm not a marathon runner, so I just rode along on a bike, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot easier than I thought it would be, thankfully. And then, just doing a lot of work around the house. I spoiled myself. I bought some new tools, so I was kind of excited about that chance to, do more of the handyman stuff around here, so it actually, is fixed instead of just patched, which is nice. And now here we are.
Here we are. How about you, David? How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I mean, I also had a long weekend. Kind of just relaxed. Took some time for myself. Did a little bit of some streaming. Just relaxed. I had a tournament yesterday, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, now I'm here. I'm glad to be a guest on your show. It's an honor.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome, and so just so everybody knows the reason, and I'm waiting for a logo. At least at some point, Liam's going to get this logo for our rogue coupe, because we have a coupe that we're all in now, and that's the unrunning joke on the show, because it's not really a coupe, but I think it's funny. But that's how we actually met David, is through the Rogue Media Co-op, and it was kind of one of those things where I wanted to have people on the show from the co-op. I think we've never had gamers on until recently, like ever. Like it's just not a demographic we thought about. And we had on Frackle 2 weeks ago, and it was kind of funny because I was like, well, I'm assuming your politics are similar to mine because you're in this media co-op, but if not, you should tell me ahead of time because I'm pretty far left.
I'm pretty far left too, so we're good there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to spirited debate. I won't lie, but you will get debate. It will be a debate. So,
hell yeah, I'm excited.
Either which way. So two things. One, I got to know what tournament you played in, and the second thing is tell everybody a little bit about your show. For us.
Okay, for sure. So last night I was in an Apex Legends tournament. A good friend of mine, a member of my community, and he's a moderator for another friend of mine. Oh hi Matt. He was hosting a tournament, a small little tournament for just like smaller streamers, just to like network and get to know each other, show off their skills, be communicating and get to know each other. There was no prize pool or anything. It was just for good vibes. I wasn't expecting much from it. It was just a good old time. We won the first game, and then we got second place. It was good. We ended up placing like overall like 6th or something. It was fun. It was all for fun. And yeah, a little bit about myself. I started streaming like December. It was never something I thought I would be doing, to be honest. But after it was like what kind of started it was after the murder of George Floyd. I started watching more leftist content creators like Hassan Piker and Vosh. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that like YouTube and Twitch and like the live streaming world like had such like I didn't realize it was growing. Like the leftist movement was like growing through that. And like I had just recently graduated from college, and I was like, I need to do I want to like be able to like kind of have these discussions outside of academia, and as a person who is a gamer, I think a lot of people in the gaming community are a little bit, I don't want to say sheltered out of it, but they're a little bit they're not really exposed to the left side of politics as much, and as we kind of all probably know, like for a good while the internet was kind of not invaded, but it was kind of like taken up by like right-wing edgelord conservative like demagogues, and I think it's important that like now we start having like a little bit more of a pushback from the left side, and having these discussions, and I think at least my goal, obviously right now my community is not big enough for me to have that much of an outreach for like leftist politics, but whenever I can bring it up on my stream I will, but right now I'm kind of just focused on growing my community through gaming, and then like through like Rogue Media, kind of filter out like more of the left-leaning politics to my community, and hopefully from there, as it grows, it expands, and I mean, like you're part of it too. Frackle's also part of it, and like hopefully all of us together, like we kind of start infiltrating like the internet sphere, and spread the word and help out people, like just help out all the leftists on there, like Hassan and Vosh, and so hopefully it comes something good comes out of that.
Yeah, I think it will. We had Liam on the show originally when he was running for the House, and it was the reason we had him on. It was actually after all of the elections. Because Trump lost,
Yeah.
I was combing Twitter because it was just like, I can't believe this. Like, I feel good about combing. I don't have to watch all these crazy ads anymore. And I came across his concession video. And I'm gonna go look for it in a minute because his concession video is like the best thing ever. Like, I just love it so much. And it was like, we were like, I gotta have this guy in the show just because I've never seen anybody do a concession video like this. And so we had him on and kind of hit it off, and that's kind of how we've grown with Liam over the past, I don't know, what is it, like 9 months now? Man.
It seems that way.
Yeah, something like that. So we're excited to have you on. So you stream games, correct? Mainly you stream games and then kind of throw your politics in there once in a while. Which again, maybe it's a generational thing, right? Because I'm almost 40. People in my group that play games online typically are more conservative. But my son was telling me, and obviously my son's 18. And he was telling me about some of the streams he watches, and he says they're all openly, not leftist, but openly at least centrist or openly Democrat. And I just think that's weird because, like, I get on, like, I play Outriders, I play Call of Duty sometimes, but it's all done on my PS5. I don't do it on my computer or anything. I don't like playing on the computer for whatever reason. I'm old school. Right. Give me a damn system. But anyway, so it's just I have to watch what I say if I want to keep people around, because I had a guy that I've been friends with for a while, and he brought something up to do basically with Black Lives Matter and essentially people privilege, and he's like, well, I grew up poor and all this. I'm like, yeah, but you're white as shit, dude. Like, yeah, but I have it really hard. Yeah, I understand that. He's like, well, you didn't grow up as poor as that. I know that. I didn't have oppressive parents either. But I'm telling you right now, like, we're a lot more privileged than some of these other people are. And if you speak to more people in minority communities, you actually, like, instead of it just being this illusion, that's what I was trying to get to the point to him, is like, there's an illusion you have because you aren't surrounding yourself with enough people from there. And that's why. And when you get to that point, you'll start seeing some of these other things come in unless your politics, push it away. Luckily, he hasn't defriended me yet. We'll see. If he listens to this, you never know.
Yeah.
But tell everybody, what games do you stream? Like, what's your gaming preference?
Yeah. So I'm a variety streamer, so I don't really have like a particular game that I like hone in on like other streamers. But like the main games I do play are Apex Legends, Valorant, I just got Guilty Gear Strive. I love fighting games, so like a brand new fighting game is always great for me to be like being a degen on. I played Among Us. I've played some Minecraft, Phasmophobia. Yeah, just a bunch of games. I don't play Warzone anymore because I hate that game now. I can't stand it. There's better things out there. So, but yeah, I stream like a variety of stuff. Like Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like working on that right now. I haven't played it in like a few weeks, but I'm working on some single player stuff too. But yeah, so mostly multiplayer. So
if you play Ghost of Tsushima, that's interesting because that was my game last year. So they released the multiplayer last, I think, the end of October or beginning of November, and that's when I got into it. And so I can tell you right now, if you want to be the most OP player, there's like the Ranger class, right? And if you can get the Skipping Stone bow, you boom, it's done. Everything's over with. And then you build your stats. And now we're talking games, but you build your stats essentially because it's a headshot bow and it ricochets. So you pull, you hit, it kills 2 people. Then you can enhance. So when you do your alt and you shoot, it does like 10 people all at once.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
have
crazy.
to try that out.
Yeah, I think my kill cap in a, so I'm trying to think. I can't remember all the levels, but it's not it's the level with the boats in it that you play.
Uh-huh.
When we do multiplayer, my kill cap is 410 on that. So, which I'm not even the top player. You know, there's all these other people that are better. But that was like, if you want to piss everybody off, play that. Or
Okay.
you can create a DPS Ronin.
Ooh. Okay.
And you can like go in there and buff your stats, and you can
Yeah.
go murder everybody. And you can use your kunai, where you do the 2 throws, right?
Right.
And you'll throw them, and they have 50% chance of replenishing all the way to the beginning. So you can get them every, like, I don't know, like 5 seconds or something like that.
Ah. Well. I'm gonna have to like dig into the multiplayer. I was like holding off on it because I was like, I think I want to finish the single player first, but I might just have to like get a jump start on that multiplayer and start going guerrilla with that DPS class then.
There you go. So it's pretty awesome. So so you play a variety of stream games. Tell us a little bit about your background. Kind of what drew you to politics? Have you always been a leftist? Did you start conservative? How did you become where you were at?
Right. So I was always interested in politics to an extent, as far as like knowing who's running, what do they believe in, right? That was kind of like a thing since like, I don't know, probably middle school, something like that. But it was like vague, like very surface level stuff. Nothing I completely understood. And it wasn't until like my senior year of high school when I took like my government class and we started learning more about how the government functions and stuff, where I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting stuff. And then after I graduated high school, I was like, okay, cool. I know things fine. And it wasn't my first 3 years of college. I was a biology major, and they don't really give you too much as far as learning more about like politics and more about like that world. I would say if you're in that major. So I only took like one political science class. In that class, I think is what jump-started my more left-leaning ideologies. My professor had us read People's History by Howard Zinn. Is it called People's History? I think it's called People's History by Howard Zinn. But it talks about the history of the United States, but from like the indigenous point of view, and how it. We all know what happened. And the repercussions of all that, and like how that affects what's going on today. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I didn't need to take more classes, so I didn't. And it wasn't until like my 4th year when I switched majors, because I was like, biology is not my thing. I don't like this. This is not fun. I don't want to go to a PhD. Like, I don't want to have to do that. So I switched to anthropology. And I think it was the best decision. It was the best decision for me. That's when I started learning more about intersectionality, learning more about like different cultures, how they function, and how not everything has to be in a Western point of view. Everyone functions in their own way, and there's no like all the ethnocentrism. That stuff's ugly. So like, it definitely expanded my mind a little more. And it wasn't until my last semester of college when I took a social theory class, where we learned more about Marx, Engels, we learned about Freud, Durkheim, and that's what really jump-started my fascination with like social theory. And it makes me wish I took sociology classes, but that's okay. And soon after that, the murder of George Floyd happened, and then I was like finally connecting the dots. I was finally starting to understand all the things that I learned in class, and like all these things that happened in the past, like leading up to today, and how like not much has like changed as far as like systemic racism, and all that stuff. And from there, like people like Hassan and Vosh, I've been using them as like sort of like as resources to help educate me and help me like get a good point of view on these things, without it being from like big media, or like a more conservative side. So that was kind of what definitely established me as being a democratic socialist, I guess.
Find it interesting that everybody that we've talked to that's part of the social co-op here, the murder of George Floyd seems to be the kindling that starts the fire. I mean, to me, that was another one. You know what I mean? Like, for the people that we've been watching these kinds of things for years now, and all you kids out there just finally learn this. But in the end, like, I find it interesting to see how far-reaching the consequences of that single event, something similar to the Rodney King beating and other major social events. I guess we'll see as the history books are written how far it reaches, but it definitely seems to be for Gen Z and the newer generations that was like a kind of an awareness moment, a blinking, wait, what moment, and it's interesting to me, and I'm curious to see how far it goes, because it's like coming out of college, we all kind of have the same stories for neither coming out of college or not, but just in the general age area that we were just frustrated with the shape of our society, and we found ourselves just starting off with the angry atheist content, and then working our way into, once we've left religion and we're angry at that type of thing, we can just yell at the stars all day long, or we could actually get involved with politics and start making change, because we know that there have been people trying to create a theocracy for years. And so, like, we've been kind of in this, and it's just like, oh, yeah, another African American, another minority was killed. But the George Floyd thing seems to be this massive deal for a lot of young people, and it's pretty cool that was, that they took to arms on. Unfortunately, it took something as tragic as that. But it's just an interesting thing that I keep seeing over and over.
Yeah, I think like part of it is like the pandemic. I think being
locked you in and made you watch the news.
Being locked in, watching TV, being on social media, and like you just have this like outpour and like outrage on like your feeds constantly, like going on about this and like trying to educate people. I think that really definitely boosted a lot of people's like interpretation of like what's going on in with the whole situation. I feel like that would be the silver lining, if you could probably call it one, but just, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So with your show, one of the, and again, like I said, I think the streaming of the video games is very interesting for it, right? And to me, one of the big questions, kind of comes in is, if you're working towards, right, creating a different set of audience, let's say, right? And you're working towards that whole thing. Do you want to expand and do something kind of like similar to like Frackle does? So now he does like this long form discussion. And so he talks for hours on end, and like, we talk a lot, but there's three of us, so like it's broken apart, right? But do you have any interest in doing that? I mean, do you want to like talk about leftist poetry while you're streaming, or do you kind of just stick to game commentary and throwing the politics in as it goes?
So it would be more along the lines of like just doing commentary. Like, so what I did recently was I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that game, I don't know if you guys have played the original one or not, but like that game is pretty apparent on like what happens when you let like mega corporations like to have too much power, and how that leads into like fascist authoritarian like governments. And that was the point. I had a significantly smaller audience than I do now, and granted, my audience is pretty tiny right now, but still, I would pause the game and be like, look, see, like, and I would try to like reflect on what's going on today. I'm like, look, guys, like, see, this is mimicking like Trump and like other Republican like vocabulary right now. Like, look, like art, like a lot of like art, like in media, like video games, books, movies, they preach this stuff because it's literally happening. It's right in front of your eyes. Don't take this as just like some sort of like fictional like thing that happens in a video game. Like this is stuff that could happen if we're not careful.
Rufus. I don't know. That was my game. That's the game that got me into gaming. That was the big one. I mean, before 100%ing happened, I beat Ruby and Emerald Weapon. Like those were
Before
like
400%ing happened. Oh my gosh.
No, before 100%ing in games. So like there was no like metric. It's just like there were a few things hidden inside of a game, and if you did it, you got the golden chocobo, you got the knights that are around. You know, you work on having your materia get born. So every character on my team had a knights that around and a phoenix, so they would cast regen, relive, and all that. Just like it was a just absolute obliteration. But that game was the first one that got me just completely into it. And it was such a good game.
I don't disagree with you in any way, shape, or form because I had done the same thing. Though I don't think I beat Emerald. I think I beat Ruby, but I never beat Emerald.
Emerald was hard because you had to get the underwater materia, so you could stay underwater for more than 30 minutes, because that battle was hard to do in less than 30 minutes. And so you had to get that one special thing, and then you just stay alive. And Ruby just killed 2 of your characters, so if you made all 3 of your characters exactly the same, didn't matter who got hit.
Yeah, then it didn't matter. Then you could do whatever you wanted.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't know, that was just like, that was my game. That's pretty cool. And that, yeah, definitely social structures, the slums and everything in that. I mean, everything about that first portion of that game, and then it opens up into a traditional RPG, but definitely talking about social economic status without question all over the first portion of that game.
Oh, yeah.
So did you like the remake as much as the original?
Me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I won't lie to you. I didn't play the original. I only played the remake.
Oh my god!
Sorry. I'm young. I grew up playing Pokemon, man. Like I'm not a big fan of RPGs, so like.
It's okay. You're with good people over on this end, anyways.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna turn Buddy off there. Second, you're done. You're donezo. I can't believe that's crazy. So we just, all right. So here's the deal, David. Here's the deal. I could send you an original PlayStation, and I could send you my copy of Final Fantasy VII. The deal, there's 2 deals though. The first deal though is that you have to send the copy back because I have the rare, like fucked up edition one, and it's worth a little bit more. It's probably not worth as much. I guess I haven't looked in a while.
Let's go to the PlayStation Store and just buy them a copy if you're gonna do all that crap.
All right, that's fair.
And shipping.
I think I have the original on my Xbox actually.
You
I
should
think they
play
had it on Game Pass. Yeah, I should.
And then what you need to do is come back to the show and have a conversation with us. And Buddy, Buddy will not be invited if he doesn't play it either, because that game is one of the most amazing games ever made. Like that was, if we have to list like, and here we go, there we go. We'll do this and then we'll move on to other content. I promise everyone.
Okay.
But what is your top? We'll just say top 3 games, because for me, my top game is Super Mario RPG. That one, hands down, exists over everything else in the whole wide world. Then Final Fantasy VII, because that was the first real RPG I actually got into. And then I went back and played some of the older Final Fantasies on Super Nintendo and Nintendo that I never had actually played before, because I was younger when the first ones came out, so you're just like, some of these are kind of boring because like I got to read all this and it's like I don't want to read any of this shit, you know?
Right.
And then Chrono Trigger is probably my 3rd. So, David, you go first. What are yours?
Oh god. All right. Top 3. All right. I think number 1 would probably have to be Pokemon Ruby. I think that's the game that definitely solidified me into investing way too much time into playing video games. I burnt out the internal clock on that cartridge. It like capped the thing at 360 hours, and I know I definitely played way more after that. So that one would be up there. I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate would be up there just because I have all of them. I have all the Super Smash Brothers games. Like that's like one of my favorite games of all time. And Ultimate, just having all that content in there, like, yeah, it's not, in my opinion, definitely not the best one competitively, but it holds a special place in my heart for sure. And then I would say, dang, there's so many. Oh man, I'll say Batman Arkham Knight just because that one got me that one in college with my roommates. I have a lot of special memories with that one. Just all the jokes we would crack. That one definitely like is up there too.
All right, fair enough. How about you, buddy? Do you play video games?
I like Tetris.
All right.
Hey, let's go.
I am not a very committed gamer. There are very few video game series that I've actually committed to. Like up until the Xbox One came out, the Gears of War series, I had played all of those. I'm not a big first person shooter, so it has to be something really interesting to me to get me to invest more than a couple of days worth of interest. And let me just say that a gun with a chainsaw on it is kind of the way to go. I've got a collection of video games that I have played partially or through a good chunk of, just because I end up having a lot of other things to do, and having ADD means that like I'm either fully in or I'm not at all in. And if I'm fully in for a few days, cool. But then after those few days, I'm like, oh, I've been neglecting all these other things that I needed to do. Then I go get doing those, and then next thing I know, 5 years have gone by, and I'm popping just because you brought Arkham Knight into it, Arkham City, and realizing that yeah, I hadn't beat it, but I was just sitting at the last mission, and I had no idea for the last 5 years because I hadn't touched the damn thing. So it's very rare. The Assassin's Creed games have kind of taken up roost. I've played a couple of those. I'm almost done Black Flag. I just haven't played in a couple of weeks. And then because I'm an adult child, I'm big on the Pokemans. I like the Pikachus. It was funny because it was Let's Go that got me back into it, because I was like, I never actually owned any of the games when I was a kid. I would just play with my friends, and then now I'm an adult with my own damn console. So I was like, hell, this is my game now. I don't have to play with somebody else's. These are mine. And I actually know what I'm doing. So there was that, and then my wife was playing one of the 8th generation games, and now I'm looking at what I'm going to do about the remakes for the 4th generation. What are your thoughts on those, David? By the way,
on the games you listed,
or the 4th gen remakes for Pokemon?
Oh, okay. I'll be honest. I skipped out on 4th generation. 4th generation was the one I did not play and I didn't really care about. I think 3rd or 5th generation are definitely my favorite ones, but 4th generation is good. It's valid. I'm cool with the remakes. I'll definitely play them. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I they just were not my thing.
I to get through the 4th generation, I had to download an emulator just to play Platinum.
Let's go.
Because otherwise, I just could not find a copy that would work. And I was like, all right, well, fine then. Piracy it is.
Yeah.
All right, Hanna, how about you?
Mine are pretty straightforward. These are not so much like whatever game I'm in at the moment is like my favorite game in the end, because like whatever's keeping me in is keeping me in. But,
you're
like,
non-committal. Come on.
The 3. How about you let me finish talking, man? The 3 that like were the biggest life-changing things. So like without a doubt, the first Metroid. So I sat in my living room with my father, mapped out the entire game, each screen to one piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. We made that whole game's map, all the locations for completely, like father and son. Like this was like one of the only things he ever did video gaming, and he was so obsessed. Blockbuster called us and asked if we were ever giving them that game back. Like it was like that big of a thing. Like it was just this totally memorable thing that'll never happen again. And it was just something else, and like he just got consumed by it. And after that, he was like, "I'm never doing that again. That's too much." Like it was just like the first little puff on something. He's like, "Nope, that's not for me. That's too much." And then after that, like gaming was just the thing I did, Nintendo, Genesis, or whatever. But Final Fantasy VII was what got me into it again hard. And then the other one was probably the most like memorable as far as like games that I played a lot was Metal Gear Solid, the original PlayStation 1. Like the story and the Hideo Kojima movie game experience Like there was nothing like it. And so like Metal Gear throughout the series, but like that first one, you know, disconnect your controller and plug it into the other port so you could get past the psychokinetic capabilities of Psycho Mantis, or look at the back of the jewel case of the actual thing to get Meryl's frequency, which is like, I couldn't figure that out for the longest time until I actually looked at the case and figured that out. It's just one of those things, like, you know, those are really innovative things that may not be like graphically amazing, but at the time Metal Gear was amazing, and so was Final Fantasy graphically. But like those were just like playing experiences alone, no other people, because screw all y'all, I'm playing alone. I don't want anything to do with online. I just don't. Like, I get on the games to get away from humans, and so like I love the big single player systems and like God of War stuff. But those are my three. Like, just dived in completely. It was awesome.
One of my favorite lines or bits about modern online gaming is the only reason to go on Xbox Live is to find out how many 12-year-olds your mother slept with.
yeah, I just
Kids are ruthless, man. They don't care.
Oh, they are. Like, and what's worse is like when I was okay, so Grand Theft Auto, I guess that's another game series that I've actually invested in. On GTA Online, I'm sitting there and I'm hearing these voices and I'm like, you have not even hit puberty yet. That is some foul fucking language.
Try to kill you from like 3,000 yards away, and you're like, I hate this game. I don't want to play it again.
Oh no, that's my catharsis. Like that's if I've had a really bad day, I will go into that game and it will be carnage. But it will be a safe carnage because I will have totally lived out a fantasy in a virtual world that is completely safe, and the only person who might be worried is my psychologist, and that's just because they would have noticed that I went into a room full of people where I had placed explosives on both ends just to make sure I got the most amount of, bloodshed and all of that.
I think the game just caused when they put bombs and rockets all over the cows and shoot them into space. That's a bit weird too. Like, we didn't have to for that one. So let's talk real world stuff now, huh?
Is that how that works? I think that's probably
Maybe.
how that works. So
Maybe.
So let's do. So you're getting you're gonna get a taste of what we do every week. We typically do a discussion about something a conservative has asked us or has asked in a Reddit thread.
Oh,
So give me a
nice.
second and I'll bring it up. Sorry, hold on. I'm playing the graphic video. I don't know if anybody's watching it or you're just
I am.
waiting for me to talk.
That's how I knew what was going on.
So today's question comes to us from my favorite Reddit thread and probably your favorite Reddit thread too, Hanna. And essentially the question for today is, how do you justify deficit spending? So it's kind of an interesting question, right? And essentially here is kind of the disclaimer that they gave with this question. And typically what we do is when we get a question, I kind of ask, I need a little bit of detail, and then we answer it on the show. And essentially what this one is he says, I know Republicans have done a lot of spending, but look at what your Democrats are doing. And he's pointing at Biden, essentially. And he's asking if the Republicans are outspoken against it, the spending, how can you justify it anymore when you critique them for their spending? And I understand the logic of spending more money in a recession to stimulate the economy, but we deficit spend every year now, good or bad. What are the results of half a century of deficit spending, except for the small surplus that we saw in the late 90s, which ironically was under a Democratic or wannabe Democratic president? So that's kind of the question to the group is, how do you justify deficit spending as a leftist? And Hanna, I'll let you go first. How about that?
Well, from modern monetary theory, actual like situation where we're doing a real world, large scale analysis of the concept of the modern monetary theory terminology. Essentially, what it is in modern monetary theory, since we in the United States have a fiat country or a fiat currency, we own and print our money. We aren't subject or beholden to any other country as far as where our money comes from, and we don't have to have a gold bar for every representation of gold bar value in our money, the gold standard or the silver standard they used to do back in the day. So since we don't have that, we basically can print money at will, however much we want. And modern monetary theory says that we think of taxes in the wrong way. So in the current monetary theories and the current economic policy, they essentially think that they take taxes in from the people, and then that money gets spent on the projects and the people and things like that. But in modern monetary theory, essentially, it's the other way around. The market itself is a certain size sponge. And modern monetary theory says that the government can basically do whatever it wants, print as much as it wants, and it won't cause massive inflation as long as the market can absorb that currency. And so if the market has room for new bridges, new growth, all these things, this finance moving around, going into all the different places, if it was printed by the government, it won't cause massive loads of inflation. And the reason being is because the market can absorb it. When you see things like inflation is when you start seeing things like cost of goods rise incredibly high due to demand changes and things like that. And if the currency, if we these all these investments in essentially not the infrastructure stuff, but the all of the investments into the people during the pandemic, which basically straight cash printed from the government, handed back to the people, and we're not seeing these wild growths in inflation. What we are seeing is the natural rise in inflation that we would have seen if the federal government or the central bank and the Fed weren't all artificially holding inflation low by keeping the interest rates really, really low. Like what we're seeing now is what we would have seen for years and years and years of normal growth of inflation and financial growth in the country and all the kind of stuff that would have expected. Not this crazy blow through so like the justification is that I'm saying that theory, the modern monetary theory, is more accurate and a better representation of economic theory in real world practice than the Reaganomics idea of trickle down economics and stuff like that. Like they think that as soon as anything goes in, it's just boom's going to blow everything up and everybody's going to lose their jobs. We just saw that isn't the case, and we're seeing inflation now. So this will be a cool thing to see if it goes nuts and it goes crazy through the roof and we have $500 loaves of bread. Then I'll eat my hat on camera, but I don't think that's going to happen because we would have seen it by now. I mean, we're a year and a half, almost 2 years into this kind of thing, and I don't know. I just don't think it. I think that this is the best large scale examination of that theory, and that's the reason why I think we can do it. It's just kind of proving out that theory now.
That's fair, buddy. How about you?
Oh, I'm not gonna have even half as much to say as Hanna there. Admittedly, economics isn't always my strongest suit. But the one thing that I do know, or at least I'm fairly confident in advocating for, with regards to, if you're in a deficit, your economy's lower, you shouldn't just cut spending. What you should be doing is then reduce, the amount of money you're spending on importing and everything, and instead take the money that you do have in your budget and focus it on, your infrastructure, so you're at least keeping your local economies alive and going. So this way, you've still got jobs, so people are working, and we all know conservatives can't shut up about how important it is to have jobs. So by investing that money in infrastructure, we're maintaining the systems that we have that, may have been neglected because we were too busy focusing on, some booming industry, or we had a good times or whatever. And then we just take it, we reinvest it in, home. We're keeping that money local. We're buying, using local resources to repair local structures or build up roads or hospitals or anything along those lines, any sort of necessary service that we need, or anything along those lines. So that's pretty much the extent of what I'm confident in advocating for with regards to this question. But I think it's very important that, you can't just stop spending money. And another thing that really frustrates me is the fact that you hear this argument about, deficit spending and, you shouldn't be spending more money than you make. And then this complete and total failure to realize that personal debt and national debt are not the same thing. Just because your nation is, thousands or millions of dollars in the red for this budget doesn't mean the same thing as you being hundreds of dollars in debt for that year. Like it just, there's not the same ramifications, not the same consequences. Ultimately, they're really just two very different types of debt that have very different consequences and reasons.
All right, fair enough. How about you, David? What's your thoughts?
Like Buddy here, I economics is not my strong suit. my expertise comes more into social stuff and cultural. But I will say this: I do like the idea of reinvesting into like infrastructure, and like spending on that. I think right now, as far as like spending is concerned, and like infrastructure, I think reallocating money to start like at a federal level to start investing into clean energy would be a great start, I think. And creating more jobs, especially, I think. I think now that we're starting to move into an era where fossil fuels are becoming more and more obsolete, and clean energy is looking like the way to go. It seems like, as the United States, as it prides itself in being number one, I think we should definitely start taking that dive into investing into clean energy and being the world leaders in that, and leading the charge globally on combating like climate change and stuff like that. And I feel like that would be like one good way of like going about that. That's as far as I can give you on input.
All right, that's fair. In my world, if you look at it, so I'm a business major, so we did have to focus a little bit. It looks like Hannah's frozen there. But we had to focus a little bit on, basically gross profit, net profit, what's your EBITDA, what's your cash flow, that type of thing, right? And this is kind of the funny thing. When we talk with like what Trump was doing and this and that, and everybody says, well, I don't want to see our deficit go up. I don't want to see any of this. But our deficit essentially can go up as long as our GDP goes up. Now, I'm not an economics expert, so anybody listening, you don't have to follow my advice. But the idea here is going to be that when we get to that point, right, where we start to see too much of our deficit growth versus where our GDP is, that's when I start to get a little concerned. And I only say that because if our GDP, it makes us the richest company, that's our net worth, our gross worth to some extent, right? That's what that is. And that's kind of the same thing is, yeah, if my deficit is less than that, I'm technically a profitable company. Now, lots of companies do things to make things unprofitable, right? They take losses. For example, my company overinvested in technology this year, and then they did pay out 401k bonuses and things like that. So they technically had to pay a lot less taxes because of the way Trump structured the tax code for companies like mine. The difference, though, is on a whole as a U.S., as long as we don't see too much creep, we should be able to be okay with that, right? Like, technically, that should not matter. Because if I ever had to cash out and sell the U.S., if my worth is worth more than what my debt is, I'm still golden, at least in a business sense. And so in my world, and the way I argue it with other people is like, yeah, I don't want to see I agree. I don't want to see my deficit grow either. But if you look at who grew the deficit the most in the last 25 years, it is not a Democrat at all. it was a Republican, for Christ's sake. And it was the worst Republican that we've ever had, ever in the history of America. And I will, that's my hot take. Trump is literally the worst president we've ever had. And, you know, I could go on a whole tangent because I work in a 3PL. I work for shipping and understand all the things. And Trump wanted to bring all this business back home. But we are importing more than we ever have under any other president. Period. We did. We imported more. So not only did his taxes hurt the businesses in the U.S. importing stuff, it didn't force them to come bring work back to the U.S. It didn't do any of that. None of these things worked. You brought zero business back to the U.S., Mr. Trump. Are you fucking stupid? Do you not fucking know how to run a business?
He doesn't. No, he doesn't. That's why his emails failed.
And I'm not...
He doesn't understand basic numbers. I mean, well, one of the things that's funny about this is that did you guys know that the world, that Earth and humanity, all encompass is $281 trillion in debt?
Wait, so you mean we've actually created more debt than we have?
Yeah. So that's one of the things about this entire system is that essentially these marks on paper and all of these mathematical systems and calculation tools and all of these financial tools and speculation tools. So like our economy is 90-something% at speculation now. So it's trading on the value of money. Like eventually it just becomes a bunch of digital dots on spreadsheets. And so like that's kind of what the funny thing is here is like the entire world is overspending balance onto its GDP. Like it's the whole thing, like this, if there's ever been a Fight Club moment, right? Like it just kind of need to reset the whole thing or change the way we do money because it's absurd to a certain degree.
I'm going to say we have to change the way we do money because I work parallel to banks, and they are the worst organized institutions you will ever see. There is no internal communication. They don't give a shit about anybody other than their biggest clients. And I don't understand how they're an institution that we've allowed to wedge themselves into such a place where they are essential to everything, and yet they're utterly incompetent. Like, I don't trust a bank with my money after seeing half the shit that I've seen, and it's absolutely appalling. Oh, it totally is. It totally is. We have our big three banks up in Canada. I think it's big three or something like that. We got Royal Bank of Canada, CIBC, BMO, TD. Okay, so I guess there's more than big three. Already, and it's such a monopoly that there's so many different smaller like credit unions and banks, but they're just basically blips, and they're not really going to do anything big in the long run. But you go to these big banks, and they're the ones getting bailed out, but they're also the ones who make it as expensive as possible to be poor. I have a very big issue with my bank because for years I had a good job. I hadn't, quit that good job. I hadn't made bad decisions. I had a lot of savings and all of that. And then I hit literally a rough 6 months that completely reset years worth of work. And that was, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm still paying for it. I'm still a liability, which I find ironic because banks have ruined the economy how many times over and have had to get bailed out by their customers. And yet they have the nerve to tell somebody who, was a few $1,000s in debt, they're a liability, and giving them that few $1,000s to get out of debt that they're going to pay back anyways. Well, something that they're just not willing to try. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Chase Bank did the same kind of thing. Just the other day, they said that they tweeted out. It says, "Why is my balance so low? Bank account. Make coffee at home. Bank account. Eat the food that's already in the fridge. Bank account. You don't need a cab. It's only 3 blocks. I guess we'll never know." And the bank account says, "Whoa, seriously?" Because essentially the bank is saying, "Spend your money wisely. You're, being frivolous." And then whoever this person is a public citizen. They said, bank that pays its CEO $31 million a year and received $12 billion bailout after crashing the economy tells poor people to stop being so irresponsible with their money.
And the funny thing is that you never see these people get in a position where they can be called out like this because they shelter themselves. They hide away. They never go before the public. I mean, one of the funniest things I ever saw was we've batted the name around several times, Rutger Bregman, when he went to Davos. I was watching the video, and one of the billionaires who looked like Bill Gates let himself go was standing up and was saying, you guys are only talking about taxes, but what about the philanthropy? And he took a dig at Bregman, being like, yeah, you like your swears. And it's like, dude, how detached from everyone do you have to be that up your own ass? And
I remember when Wilbur Ross said, an average family making $200,000-$300,000 a year. What?
Yeah.
So I mean, these are the people that are saying, "Don't run up the GDP." I don't know. Hey. What do you think? Did we answer that question? I think we
did, and I could go on a tangent really bad because that, and this is maybe we should have made a whole segment out of it. Maybe we're going to table it. I'm going to be a good host. I'm going to table it and move on to what we actually committed to talk to, because and this is what pisses me off is like everybody will look at themselves, but they don't look at these other things. And the deeper conversation here, and maybe this is a boring topic because at least two people on this show said they don't like economics, but I
don't like it. I just don't know much about it.
The discussion really kind of comes around is understanding where your national debt, who holds it, right? Because we didn't even get to that portion of it. Like, I didn't go down that tangent because technically speaking, you have like household debt, corporate debt, and government debt. And it's like, for example, China, it's worrying because corporate debt is going through the roof in China compared to GDP. And that's when we look at economic clashes, and maybe we'll have Liam. That's what we'll do. We're going to get Liam involved. We're going to talk about this with Liam here in the next couple of months. And so, buddy, that's your job, is to lure him into this conversation. So hopefully he knows about economics, because I would like to actually look at collapse of some of these socialist or wannabe socialist nations that everybody likes, it, like Greece, that they like to throw in our faces. Because I think if we can look at it and understand where the problem isn't because of just random spending. The problem is, where was the spending? How did the spending happen? Who did it? And then analyze it, because those should be what we should be working towards, to not have pitfalls. You telling me, yes, I don't like my national debt going up. I don't disagree. I don't like it either. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to do certain things to get other certain things. And I can tell you right now, your national debt is what did I tell you what the number was? Did I even tell you what the number was? I don't remember.
In the U.S., you didn't say anything.
Oh, so let's look that up real quick. Current U.S. national debt is roughly $23.3 trillion, right? What is our budget for military spending? What is our budget for tax cuts?
$2 trillion for the tax cuts.
There you go. You could cut tax cuts and take that $2 trillion, and in, what did I say, 23 years? So in 13 years, you paid off your national debt instantaneously.
But if we did that, then the rich people wouldn't be as rich as they are, and we can't have that because it's important.
Because what's 75 billion instead of 150?
Even though they would absolutely affect their lives in no way whatsoever, it's just a fate worse than hell for them. You don't understand what it's like to be a billionaire losing out billions of dollars.
You're right. I don't.
I never will.
I never will either. I don't know what it's like to be...
that actually hurt to be that sarcastic.
I don't even know what it's like to make, like $100,000 and lose out on that. So, like, there you go. Like I'm not a rich person, so like, I don't make a lot of money.
Pain of losing $20 and it ruining your whole day.
Yeah. Like, when we talk about gambling, right? Like, I have certain addictions, and I get like I have like addiction to this to board games, and I have addictions to X-Wing 2.0 miniatures game. Those are my addictions, right? I'm not addicted to gambling, but if I went into a gambling hall, you know how hard it is for me to part with like $25. Here, I'll tell you a story real quick. I got to tell you a story. Now I've been drinking, so now you're getting story time with Chris. Tanner's got story time. So the first time my wife went with me to a casino was to go see Weird Al. We went to go see Weird Al. We got a room right on, in the casino and everything. And I've gambled before, but I've never really won anything, so I don't really like it. But we were down there like, oh, let's gamble. We had nothing better to do after the show anyway. You're kind of drunk, a little stoned, whatever. You got to hang out and do something. So
Yeah.
I gave the wife $25 and figured if she played penny slots or whatever, it would be a half hour, 45 minutes. I could play my blackjack, get my hour of enjoyment. That's all I care. I just want 1 hour of blackjack. I want to lose less than $100, and then I get to go smoke a cigar and do something else. Light up a cigar. 15 minutes later, he comes back and says, I'm bored. Well, I gave you $25. Oh, it's gone. I was like, what'd you play? I don't know. I hit the thing. They had $1 on it, so I just kept hitting this dollar thing. I'm like, oh my God, you play dollar slots. I was like, no wonder you want some more money? You have a little bit more money.
Slot and spend like $5 per spin if you're a crazy person.
Yeah. And she's like, I didn't win anything. She's like, I don't like this. I don't like giving these people my money. I'm not getting any enjoyment out of this. I was like, all right. Well, there's a bar over there. You want to go hang out at the bar or something? She's like, can I go back to the buffet? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like for $25, at least you're going to get fed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my favorite comedians. That was what he joked. He goes, "Yeah, I lose a lot at the casino, but I get them back at the buffet. They have all you can eat breakfast. All you can eat breakfast is $2.49. I can eat $2.49 worth of toast, buddy. Come on."
Oh man, that wasn't Penn or Paul,
John Panette.
John Panette, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that him? Yeah, he's the guy that always makes fun of the it was the Asian all you can eat buffet and it's just like you eat now and all that stuff. Yeah, that guy. Of course, another large man who died early.
All right. Anyway, so let's move on to our next topic. So give me a second here and I'm gonna transition. All right. We are into the next segment. Sorry, I did not actually have the transition set up, so it just went black, and now we're back. We're back again. Anyway, because I'm super smart about setting up those transitions, So, man. Anyway, so we are going to talk about Juneteenth, right? That sounds like what we want to do.
Feels apropos.
Yeah?
Mm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what Juneteenth is?
This was a question on Final Jeopardy last night. I know it's a memoriam of the Black community, and I feel like we talked about this last year, and I feel bad that I'm drawing more of a blank.
It's fine. You're from Canada. It's okay. I mean, you guys probably have a similar day of some kind.
Oh, actually... today was Indigenous Awareness Day.
So, as far as I know, the Juneteenth is a celebration, essentially the last Union soldiers got to the last portions, I believe in Texas, that were still legally in their areas allowing for slavery, and those are the last people that were finally told, hey, you don't have to be enslaved anymore, you're free. And that was basically like this period marking point where the last of the slaves were freed, which it's kind of vague as to whether or not that was absolutely exact, but we have to pick a date sometimes to make it. And so that's, as far as I know, is pretty much the gist of the date of the holiday, and then anything else that added onto it is modern.
Seems significant enough.
Oh yeah.
So
the
you're right.
Sorry.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the emancipation of like enslaved people, like to think that there's outrage on making that a federal holiday.
My book says it's legal.
And you know what's funny?
In my book,
that's funny that anybody would be outraged about this, and I think it just goes back to the fact that these people are just racist pieces of shit. I guess. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
It's a zero-sum game.
Are you sure it's zero-sum, not just racist pieces of shit?
Well, in their head, they're basically thinking that they're losing something. They're losing some of their national heritage by having to give some of their power to other people who have been systemically held into specific camps and categories. And they realize this, and they know it. And you hear them say, I'm trying to protect my heritage. You're basically saying that you're trying to keep this pristine little ignorance bubble. Well, the only way you do that is by preventing the intermingling of the different races. So, the future's brown. I don't care what anyone else says.
Yeah.
it's a shade of some kind of brown, and it's going to be glorious.
Indeed.
So think of it this way, right? So Juneteenth was not a holiday until it was declared a holiday here on June 17th, right? And technically it's always celebrated on June 19th. And I could tell you that I celebrated at home because I still always feel a little uncomfortable saying, hey, I'm going to go cook a bunch of Southern food. But, the characteristics of the food is typically a Southern type of food. You have to have green. You gotta have that green. You gotta have that red, because it's of all the blood that was spilled trying to, emancipate people. And the sad thing is we've actually had slavery longer than we've had free slaves. So there's a fun fact of the day.
You use that word "fun" weird.
Yeah, it's not really okay. It's not a fun fact, but it is a fun fact because not a lot of people know that. A lot of people like to argue that point, but it's like technically with Jim Crow laws and everything, we have not really had a free nation for very long.
Yeah,
for everybody. And even now, we could claim technically it's not free. But anyway, the idea was to celebrate in Texas. They had a bunch of church-centered community gatherings. And yes, I know, blah, 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 church. But back in that time, that's what you had. That's what you had for community. And if you didn't respect that, man, it don't matter who you were getting disowned. Like, you could be white, you could be black, you could be Mexican. It didn't matter. You were getting disowned if you didn't go to church at that point in life. Right. I would have been probably killed very early on. I would not have lasted. So anyway, they center around food festivals. They center around talking about civil rights movements and stuff like that. And it's not just a celebration for just black people. It's a celebration for all of us to say, hey, we finally can shirk the horribleness of our democracy, right? We enslaved people, and we kind of owe a little bit of a debt for that because that's a pretty shitty thing that they did. But traditionally they would sing Sweet Low, Sweet Chariot, that type of stuff. Martin Luther King Jr., he actually dedicated this as said this should have been a new federal holiday, and he proposed this. I don't know. He did this way back in. I don't remember when he wanted it, but he was one of the larger advocates for this when he was still alive. So.
Late 60s.
Yeah. So to me, this is kind of an exciting turn of events, personally. I find this very exciting. I've actually requested every year I send my HR company or my HR in my company an email asking that they make this a holiday, whether it was national or not. It's like, if we want to be a little bit more proactive, especially this time and age, why would we not do this? If we look at, because my company likes to tout the fact that we employ minorities. They like to tout that. That's a big thing. It's like, look, we employ a lot of minorities. Well, what they don't tell you is that a lot of the minorities are in the lower wage range level, but we do technically employ a lot of minorities. But here you go. Again, I'm going to sit there and say, why not at least give this as an optional floating holiday then? We could have been proactive, and here we are not. And, when I have to sit in these quarterly business meetings, and last time, because the time before I kind of brought some things up that I don't think they cared for. This time they didn't open up the question. So like I talked to my HR director, I talked to my boss and said, hey, these if you're just going to give a status update, I don't need to block out a day and a half to have a quarterly meeting. We don't need that. If you're not going to listen to us, then just give me a broadcast and I'll listen to it. I'm fine with that. But don't pretend like you're involving me then. And I've argued this multiple times with them that this should have been a holiday. But either which way, so now we officially have it as a federal holiday. It's exciting. there's a site called Juneteenth.com, and you can actually go there, and they talk about it being a worldwide celebration. You know, of course, they had to be very careful because of COVID. COVID's obviously still a very real thing, especially in America. And so essentially what they do is this site kind of gives you the overview. They talk about, you know, what Juneteenth is. They give you more reading information, and it kind of is it's a neat little site so that if you want to learn a little bit more about what it is and what you can do, if you want a yard sign, they offer yard signs too, ironically enough. But I'm just excited that we're finally recognizing this as a federal holiday. And when there you go. Here's a history question, Hannah. When did we officially win the Civil War and emancipate all the slaves?
It was 1865 was the end of the Civil War, but I don't know the exact date when Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation. But I mean, are you talking like post or?
Yeah, it took
I
them
don't know a specific date.
Yeah, it took them forever because technically they didn't to June 19th in 1865.
Oh, yeah. It was like 2 years.
Yeah,
it was like 2 years when the actual Juneteenth event happened in Texas. Like there were people that were still slaves for years after the Civil War was over. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that's the significance of this, in my opinion. That to me, that's the larger significance of the whole thing. Anybody else have any thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I mean, honestly, I always knew about Juneteenth. I mean, like, I learned about it like 2 or 3 years ago. But like, I remember like on that day, like I was just on my Twitter feed and I just see that Biden tweeted that it's going to be a federal holiday. I'm like, oh, what? Where'd this come from? It kind of came out of like nowhere. I didn't know that this was even like a thing that was even being like worked on like on a federal level. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, all right, Biden, I see you making moves.
Yeah, touche.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not a super big fan, but you every now and then you do something.
Yeah.
Well, this is, in my opinion, for Biden, this is absurdly easy, right?
Oh yeah.
Like to me, this is basically a pacification note for the Biden administration. This is something that needed to be done, should have been done years ago. But he saves a whole bunch of face by doing this. And this might pacify some of the people who are like, Biden's working on the race relations stuff. I haven't heard a lot of stuff from either Biden or Harris about police reform and all these kinds of things that are really, really big, important things that are going to save a lot of problems that we're having. But they made this one day a national holiday, which is great, but it's not a major thing that's going to do more than just kind of make people happy and give them a time and a place to celebrate their thing. But like, us in the much more aggressive left are just like, yeah, that's awesome. Where's the rest of it? Like, you know, the stuff that you are running on, like we want push, we want hard. We got they're spending so far 6 months trying to negotiate with a absolutely refusing to work with the Democrats, Republican Party on the infrastructure bill. Like we're wasting so much time just trying to be best friends with people whose only job is to obstruct and deny. And so like police reform, all of these kinds of things, like we need to push harder. And like, it's awesome that Biden did this. It's awesome his administration is keeping, you know, these socio-political things going. But like, I mean, yeah, I need more meat. And so like, that's the only thing like that, if anything is not good enough about having this holiday finally, is that I want them to keep going. Maybe this could be the first step in a series of announcements of them doing new things when it comes to race relations in this country. I think it'll just be lean, and this will be something that they just kind of throw out there and say, well, we worked on that for a bit, let's go do something else for now. And let's just I
definitely see it as something where like a post Biden presidency where people are like reflecting on like how his administration did, and people are going to be like, oh, but he did like Juneteenth, and it's like, all right, but like assuming like nothing really else happens after this, It's like,
The thing that happened the most was that we have it on the calendars when you get the free calendars from your city every year.
yeah, they spent more. They there's like a little more ink on there now. Like that's But there was like a tweet like Ilhan Omar she like tweeted on that day. She said, "Proud Juneteenth is not a federal holiday. As we reflect on the significance of what this day symbolizes, let's keep fighting to address the lasting consequences of slavery. Next step, reparations."
Mm-hmm.
And that reparations is always an interesting. Yeah, I fucking love Ilhan Omar, dude. But reparations is always an interesting topic that seems to bring about a lot of discourse in the political sphere.
That's definitely something we can look into talking more about again in the future. We've touched on it here and there, but that would be a good one to look up kind of the current proposals for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I think the big thing with that is there's a lot of people that even on the left that don't believe we owe reparations anymore, and it's kind of like, well, do we? Do you really think when people were enslaved? Like, I get it that they aren't enslaved now, but and again, I don't know, because here's where I'm torn, and this is a very weird view because I'm pretty far left, right? Instead of reparations, if you moved and said, okay, we're going to do a UBI, and the difference is if you are a minority that has been affected by the U.S. government because you've been abused, you get a different scale UBI, right? Then we don't have to call it reparations, which I know we should just accept that word. Like, I get it. I 100% understand and believe that. But I'm also of that mindset that I'm saying, hey, how do I get these other assholes on board? And if I just eliminate this word and say, well, black people are going to get a $1,500 UBI, white people get $1,000, and then if you make me explain it, then it's like, well, this is reparations. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And you could even have a floating UBI number, right? Based on the category you fit into. You don't have to have a set UBI. And this is shit that goes far beyond what even Andrew Yang is talking about. And this is what drives me nuts, is because Andrew Yang is like the first person to bring this up. And I love that he brings it up. But Andrew Yang is not some revolutionary, in my opinion. And me and Boyce could have this discussion. We'll see if Andrew Yang wins tomorrow or not. But, he's not this huge revolutionary. Is he better than a lot of the competition? Yes. Is he non-establishment and to the left? Yes. Is he left in all the policies? No. Is he left in a few of the policies I approve of? Yes. So the problem, though, becomes, and this is where we get into hours of discussion, but the problem becomes is where you have to actually look at what is a UBI, how can we use it, and can we modify this idea and move it out? And it was funny, Hannah, we had on the show, not on the show, but we had a segment on the show that we did about a month and a half ago where I brought up this socialist psychologist guy that has been talking about UBI well before Andrew Yang was even on the scene. And I'm not saying Andrew Yang's
the first people proposing the idea of cash allotments just for the people
back in the 90s or 80s. I can't remember which it was, but so it's like, this is not a new idea. He's just the first person to have enough money to popularize it for people.
He's a successful capitalist who's actually proposing that there's a government stimulus relatively recommended, like similar to the idea of trickle down, where if everybody's doing well, then there should be some kind of stimulus for the people. Anyways, yeah. I mean, he won capitalism, therefore he gets to speak about these kinds of things now, which is cool. It's a good thing. You need advocates, but I mean, we looked at the idea of the philanthropy of the big money Googles and Facebooks and Apples and all of that stuff, and their best altruistic numbers are still not even close to the something $700 billion they made in growth these last 2
exactly.
years. So.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is a good start. I think we're all in agreement that Juneteenth is a good stepping stone and a starting place for what should be much bigger ideas, and I don't think we're going to get them.
I'm just kicking myself because I was listening to the conversation while I stepped away for a few minutes there, and as you guys are talking about reparations, Tanner, I'm right there with you in terms that I think my issue is more with the word and just the association. But I did listen to a lecture or a debate on it a few years ago, and there's just an idea that's stuck with me, and I as a white person, I think it's probably something that I should just back away from the discussion and start listening, especially because I'm probably creating more confusion than anything. But one of the issues that I have with the idea of reparations is that it kind of feels like I'm buying this, basically buying to get out of the basically it's basically trying to buy back so I don't feel as guilty. And while on the one hand I'm absolutely all for it, because it's like, you know what, y'all really got screwed, and that's being nice, or that's putting it nicely. You should probably get a little bit extra, but also it kind of feels like it's a bit of a bribe and trying to buy favor. So that's one of the issues that I have with it. Now, obviously, smarter people can have the discussion and inform it better than I can, but that was just something that I didn't want to see left off the table either.
Yep, and maybe that's something. Maybe we contract that and have somebody come on the show, and let's talk about it, because I think it's a valid topic to have a conversation about, and I think it's a valid topic to have a conversation whether we should use that word, change to a different word. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I had people argue with me about using defund the police, and it's like, I get your point. I don't disagree with you, but this is the word that's being chosen. Yeah. I've explained it to you. Just shut the fuck up and listen. Like, at some point, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Here's your explanation. Well, I don't agree with the explanation. Shut up. I don't care. Like, look, can we move on? We're now debating semantics. Do you want to see change in the police? Well, yeah, I do. Okay, there you go. Can we just accept that? Like, I mean, my God. Like, why are we? Yeah. Oh, why do we have to have this argument?
Do you want the status quo, because this is how you maintain the status quo?
And it's just, and you know what it is, and this is what pisses me off more, is it's white people trying to say, well, black people, your idea isn't good enough, therefore we got to change it to make it fit our terminology more. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
we're fucking,
David, that's a perfect term for it.
We're whitewashing this shit, and you just stop. Because if I tell you what defund the police means, and I've told everybody that asked me that question, if I tell you and you still want to change the wording of it, what does it say about you? It's not me at this point. It's now you.
It just means that you're talking to Side 10 Brugenkate.
No, it's not that bad. Not that bad. I talked to Side before. It is not that bad. And most people on the show is not gonna. Most people that listen to the show ain't gonna know who the hell Side. I bet you David has no idea who Side 10 Brugenkate is. And no.
I would argue that he already knows who Side 10 Brugenkate is.
Oh, I see what you did there. We're going to move on, because that's a different discussion I don't want to have.
Anybody
you are a cheeky little bastard.
You should look up this and look up Matt Dillahunty in that, and just watch just absurd notions of logic and everything. Either way,
and we can blame Keith for Side.
That's the word. That's the word salad. Like, just you want to play semantics. La 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 la.
Oh, if you really want to listen to something that's bashing your skull against like whatever surface near you is hardest, and
you just Google it,
involves Matt Dillahunty. Look up Matt Dillahunty versus Jordan Peterson.
No, don't do that. Stop! You're gonna get me DMCA'd on this show. Stop it, Keith. Stop! Somebody's gonna fucking report us. No.
I've seen this guy before.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
I don't know anything about him. Okay, yeah.
And he's now been evicted from the movement.
Regency, actually.
And he's Canadian.
Peterson or Brugenkate? He's probably
both.
Both, actually. I think both of them are.
They?
Yeah, Sai is. I don't know if Peterson is.
I think he is.
Peterson is, yeah. He's from Western Canada.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
thanks, Keith, for that shit shows.
You're welcome. But hey, look, my province gave you guys Nickelback, so really, Canada's not quite the nice guys everybody thinks they are.
Or maybe it's just your fucking Providence.
Hey, what's wrong with Nickelback?
No. Stop. No. No.
You didn't know what you just did! Oh, God!
Do I have to cut the last segment so we can educate you on why Nickelback is probably one of the worst bands before Creed?
Oh god, Hanna is pulling up a PowerPoint presentation that he's given on this particular subject. He's done research.
There was a guy in Sweden who did a full-on analysis, sound analysis, and everything, and basically concluded that Nickelback was the most perfect mediocre band ever, which is why everybody hates them so much, because they are perfectly, awesomely good at being absolutely mediocre, so that everybody just is like, oh, make it stop. That I will say that one good thing they did was they absorbed the thing that is Avril Lavigne, and like took it away, which is a good thing. But in the end, like, yeah, no, there's a guy wrote his doctoral thesis in music on the fact that why is Nickelback the worst band of all time, and it's just some quality reading out of the Scandinavian.
Can we have that as a segment? Can we do a segment? We did
a long time ago, but we could probably pull it up. I'll find it again.
Your goal, Hanna, is to write a segment on this. And I apologize, David. My musical taste and Hannah's music, we're pretty pushy on our musical taste, just as an FYI on the show. We're pushy on a lot of things, but definitely musical taste is one of them.
Okay.
I mean, if you had said...
I'm deaf, so I have to listen to my music at 12, so...
At least do you like Linkin Park too?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
Let me just put this out there. I'm a person that is a firm believer that there's no such thing as bad music because it's a subjective art form. So that's a whole different discussion that we could have. But I'm just saying, and I try to see. For me, it's easier to just see. For me, it's just easier to. It's just easier for me to enjoy music and find something good in it than to just not enjoy it. I don't know. That's just me.
I don't disagree with you, but there is literally zero things enjoyable about Nickelback. I find nothing enjoyable about it, ever.
If you sit on the back of a truck with a beer, man, I'm telling you, it hits different. I swear.
I disagree. I disagree with you.
Whenever I hear that all music is music, man, I just think of like the All Lives Matter guys. I'm like, yeah.
There's definitely music I don't listen to and don't care for, but I would never say it's bad.
So okay, hold on, David. So we're gonna fully tangent this shit. We're just gonna tangent the hell out of this. I don't care about Joe Manchin anymore. Yeah, I don't care about Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin can be summed up in one thing: is he basically showed everyone that he literally does not care at all, and he will do just about anything to stay in power and to appease his financial overlords. There, done.
Oh, I know, but it's awful. Anyway, I gotta go back to this. I cannot let this Nickelback thing go. So okay, when you say there's no bad music, I will philosophically disagree with you. Just hands down. And I disagree with you because I will agree. Here you go. Here's my compliment sandwich, right? The thing I like about Nickelback is when their songs end, because their songs are so horrible that musically I would literally rather listen to raccoons fuck on a garbage can while they're eating than Nickelback. But on the opposite side of things, on a positive note, their music does come to an end, and I don't listen to radio, so I don't have to listen to it very often. So I hope you took that well. That's how I do management things.
Hey man, that's your truth. I respect it completely. That's you, man.
But so if you knew what I listened to,
respect for David right now. I have so much respect for you, David. That was very well handled.
It's just, hey, that's how you like. That's how you have your own belief system on that. Like, that's totally cool.
It's not a belief system. We can scientifically prove why they suck. Like,
there was a guy. Sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I remember in 7th grade, my history teacher told us how like a scientist like scientifically proved that Britney Spears is like objectively the best like artist ever. And I don't know how you can objectively prove something like that, but
with scientific measures.
Well,
I don't know by what metrics this man used.
So hold on. There is a way to do certain things, and then I'll let you speak in a second, buddy. There is a way you can actually if you sit in a certain area in the theater, the sound is different than other areas, right? That can be scientifically proven. Right. So I would have to see that study because I don't know if I agree with it or not personally. Because I'm not a big Britney fan. But all right, go ahead, Keith. What were you going to say?
It's to David's question there. Things can be done like objectively good, but still be terrible. And I have the perfect example. I have a guilty pleasure. It is, and when I say guilty pleasure, I mean like it is a life sentence worth of guilt in terms of how much pleasure this one small thing gives me.
He likes Creed.
That is. Listen, man, just because I want you to take me higher. One of my ways that I relax and just kind of forget how terrible the world is I happen to partake in the consumption of marijuana, and I love really, really shitty movies when I'm high because it's so ridiculous, and I sit there and I laugh, and it's like, oh my god, this is so bad. What the hell have I done to myself? This is incredible. The Sharknado series, mwah. But my friend who joins me on this, he and I watched a movie because we thought, oh my god, this movie is going to take the cake in terms of like just wickedly weird fucking movies. Yeah. And that happens to be and I'm probably not going to pronounce the name right, Uable film from 2009 called Rampage. And I give you all of those pieces of information because if you try to look this movie up, you're just going to end up with the Dwayne Johnson version. And don't get me wrong, much, much better, more relaxed film. And this movie was horrible. This movie
does all of the video game movies, and they're always absolutely terrible.
This has nothing to do with the video games, and that's the scary part. It would have been better if it involved the games. And basically, it's about an incel, and an incel's best friend going on a rampage and killing people in the town. Like the main character basically sets up his best friend, who is basically an incel, has all of his military grade armor and weapons delivered to his friend's address, so his friend gets the blame for it, but he gets to leave. And he's just like this horrible, horrible human being. And then afterwards, I looked at my buddy, and my buddy he's taken more film, or he's done more with film critiquing than I have. And I looked at him and I was just like, what is this? And he looks at me and he goes, you're not going to believe this, but in terms of film quality, that was actually good because it met certain criteria that it was supposed to meet, and the flow and all of that other garbage. And when you look at those objective measures, you put those to a movie with a plot and likable characters that don't make you physically sick. It's really good, and it's easy to see how it's good. But oh my god, I don't like unless there's a lot of gore and like deliberate torture, like Saw, Human Centipede, stuff like that. That stuff really messes with me, and it makes me physically ill. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem. I love movies where there's a lot of Hanna, bloody sociopath.
So here you go.
Anyways, this movie made me sick. That's how bad it was. But it still met the criteria for a good movie.
Okay. But you agreed that it was a bad movie. You agreed that you thought it was a horrible type movie. So like you admitting it is all that matters. So if David, we're going to give you a redemption period here. If you would like to admit that you think Nickelback's music is terrible, but you love it, I'm okay with that. I can accept that.
I mean, I could agree with that. I mean,
all right. Well, there you go.
Sure, but I mean, like, okay. So, how are we measuring bad for like Nickelback? Because like,
there we go.
Like, there are people who I know that genuinely love Nickelback and they think it's great music. So, like, if to them it's good, is it not? I don't know.
It means that the music is awful, but they like that type of music. Now, I'll give you a band. Have you ever heard of a band called The Locusts?
No.
Have you ever heard of a band called Agoraphobic Nosebleed?
No.
So when we're done, here you go. Here could be this is your first don't Google it now. Don't play it while we're live. I want this to be a complete surprise.
All right.
You're going to record a reaction video of you on Twitch, and I want you to go live on Twitch and tag us. Like that's what I want.
I will.
And then I want you to tag us wherever else you could tag us, and then send me the fucking link, and it'll be like a Twitch TikTok. There you go. And you're gonna do a reaction video of listening to Agoraphobic Nosebleed or The Locust.
Send him a song link. Send him the one that you think he should listen to.
No. I want him to Google it.
He might pick the worst one.
Yeah, is there like
there's-
one I should specifically be looking for, or like any will do?
Any will do. Any will do.
Oh, great.
Because if you listen to Nickelback, I guarantee you ain't listening to this shit. Like I will put $100 in cash down that you probably never heard this style of music before, and you're probably like, who the fuck likes this? You're gonna literally, and then you're gonna be like, can I come back on and have a conversation with you about why this is the worst music
Who
ever?
hurt you?
You're going to say this. You will 100%. There you go. There's my bold prediction of the night.
Okay, I got you.
By
There you go.
the way,
And
Hannah, that's not a knife. That's a knife.
Oh my god. All right. So since we're tangenting, have you ever heard of a movie called Uncle Sam?
no.
All right. This
Oh.
is
Uh-oh.
a horror movie called Uncle Sam. So when you talk about something being an absolute atrocity, buddy, this is an atrocity. This movie is literally an atrocity. It's got some cool people in it, though. Don't get me wrong. But this movie here is an
Christmas
atrocity.
movie called Santa's Sleigh with Goldberg.
I'm just gonna let you know that on the main window, I can't see it. I can only see it in the feed that I'm watching.
I know you can. You have to watch it on Twitch. Sorry. And basically, it's this dead soldier that comes back to life and goes after these people and starts killing them in a 4th of July parade, celebration in this local town. It is
Wow, this
genuinely an awful movie. But I like these type of weird, dumb horror movies. These are dumb.
Yeah.
Remember,
Oh,
did I tell you about that Scarecrow movie?
yes.
Remember that?
Oh, I'm having a
Yeah,
hard
I do.
time. So, like, I'm hearing you say that Nickelback is objectively bad, and then you're listing things that everyone else finds objectively bad, and you're saying that you love them. So you're kind of making the argument against the Nickelback thing as
No.
you're evolving.
No.
your conversation.
I'm absolutely not. You're wrong in that. What I'm saying is that objectively, Nickelback is shit music. I am accepting the fact that people love Nickelback and think that they are an amazing band. I'll accept that all day long. I have no issues in any way, shape, or form about that. If you say, "Hey, I want you to know my favorite band is Nickelback," but I'm going to precursor this by saying their music is probably horrible, but I love them. Okay, I like Nicki Minaj. I love Nicki Minaj. I'll tell you what, my daughter and I sing Starships in the car once a week, every week. Guaranteed, no hand day. We get in the car, we sing it. She loves that song. I love this song too. Kind of cool song. I think the music is pretty shit. It's not as bad as Nickelback though, because we can take music theory and aesthetically prove why Nickelback's music and the blandness and the inability to actually innovate something is different than this Nicki Minaj dribble. Not by much. There's a small difference there, but it's there.
And okay, in music theory, huh?
It's a music theory thing.
I didn't say this. I have a minor in music also.
Oh my god! You just made this whole thing worse. Hey, can we get JT Eberhard on the show? You and JT can debate this because he has a music major. Okay, do you like country music? Do you like country music?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Yeah, I don't have
you
a problem with it.
Okay.
All music matters, man.
All right, don't make fun of the guest. Come on, let's be nice here. I don't want to scare the guy
one
away.
One of his bands that he likes is objectively the worst thing in.
Oh,
that's okay,
okay. It's not in my top 10. Nickelback's nowhere near my top 10.
Just like
Okay.
it's just like a band that you like and listen to.
All right, what's your top 3 music artists you like?
Okay. I'm gonna say at the moment, because I'm always listening to new stuff. At the moment, okay, one is gonna be solidified for sure. Red Hot Chili Peppers,
All right.
favorite band of all time. Number 2, Thundercat. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
Nope.
He's like a R&B jazz fusion guy. He's new. He did some albums with. He worked on To Pimp a Butterfly with Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, okay. Yep. I know who he is.
Yeah.
He's been on Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe listen to that.
And
it's a good interview.
oh yeah, he's great. He's an awesome guy. And I would say number 3 right now is Anderson .Paak. I don't know if you've heard of him either.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm more into listening to like the more like it's not really Underground. He just did a song with Bruno Mars, the new Bruno Mars song, "Leave the Door Open." I don't know if you guys heard that one.
Yep.
That Anderson .Paak is the guy that did it with Bruno Mars. Phenomenal
okay.
artist. Yeah. So right now, those are my top 3.
Buddy, what's your top 3? I don't want to know because this Canadian stuff nobody's ever heard of. He's going to be like Alanis Morissette. I love Alanis Morissette. That's like my favorite.
How dare you?
Justin Bieber's great too.
Jewel.
Really coming to his own.
Jewel.
Okay. Tiffany.
Is Tiffany Canadian? I did not know that.
I have no idea. I just wanted to.
Okay, all right.
Had a George Carlin bit in my head.
All right. Man, if you got to look this up, they ain't your favorite, bro.
I don't really listen to as much music these days. It's a couple of songs that I'll listen to just because I like the song itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Trivium's up there. Shit.
All right. Hanna.
I know Alice Cooper was one of my favorites.
Oh my god. Hanna, what's your favorite band?
Without a doubt is so like the first band got me into rock was Green Day, just like punk rock early on. Just because like before that it was like Hootie and the Blowfish and Kenny G, so I didn't really know what was going on. and REM, like that was what my family was giving me as CDs. So it was like, so I got Green Day's Dookie album. So that so Green Day was like a monumental one for me. Fear Factory. Just growing up with those guys, just completely and totally inside of it. And then I don't know, it's kind of a mix. Both bands have Dez in them, but Cold Chamber and Devil Driver, I don't know which of the two, because like Cold Chamber was like revelatory, but I don't listen to them like I listen to Devil Driver just on the regular. Just so like I'd say those 3. I mean, maybe you could throw Slipknot in there because that was like big giant arena shows, but yeah.
Devil Driver hands down better than Cold Chamber. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, I'm actually like saying like, it's more like this is like from like it's like the same thing with the video game stuff. It's just like for me, I like to pick things that are a little bit like more personally meaningful as opposed to like which band is the better band, because like I guess Fear Factory and Devil Driver could be compared in their general genre, but in the end, like I don't know. So yeah, because like Cold Chamber was just different, man. At least
they are.
Oh, I love Cold Chamber.
And then like the best parts about Cold Chamber are when Dez could just freak out. So now Devil Driver is just Dez freaking out. So although I didn't do the country covers that Dez, I just couldn't.
Don't do that. Actually, it's not as bad as you think it is, but it's definitely not their best album.
When you're doing cover content, like you need to know the reference material. I don't know any country songs, so like
you should play them for your wife. Your wife likes country music.
Maybe
she'd be like, "Oh, I like this." Maybe.
Yeah, I could watch someone else have a revelatory or what do they call it? A recognizable moment to music. I'm like, hey, I recognize that you're recognizing this music. This isn't fun for me. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I've only listened to that country album cover album once.
Yeah, I just
That's
like you have to know a cover in order for the original in order for a cover to work, because otherwise you have like
I don't enjoy it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
My wife has a very different taste in music that I do. I like the metals and she likes the pop, but
hell yeah.
My wife is to say my wife's an amazing singer is to be very, very not generous, is to be, yeah, I know. I realized I was like, nope, that's the opposite of what I'm saying. No, to say she's amazing is to undersell it. No, she can't hear me. It's fine. She's very talented and very skilled. She actually met Arnel Pineda, for those of you who like Journey. He's the replacement lead singer because he's Filipino, and he happened to be singing, and my wife opened for him. And yeah, it was a smaller event, but still, I'm just like, no, I don't give two shits. Like, actually, I think that was the moment, like when my dad found out about that. That was the moment he knew that she was going to be his daughter-in-law, because he was just like, it just like,
I will, boy.
It just blew his mind. So I don't tend to argue with his or with her music taste, because I'm like, you know what, you know what you're talking about. You're really, really talented. So I won't argue with you, but I'm gonna still maintain my musical choices because independent man.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, but do what you got to do, bro. So in my world, and then we're gonna move on to quick saves, and we're gonna end the show because I think we've we've gone on way too many tangents tonight. I don't. This is a little abnormal. Usually, I'm the controlled one here, moving us along. 9 Inch Nails.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
No questions asked. Like that is if you eliminated all music in the world and left me with one band, 9 Inch Nails, I could listen to it all day, every day, until the end of time.
Hell yeah.
Counting Crows. That's the other one. Which is most people are like, why would you listen to that? But so we talk about nostalgia things, and then my wife and I, the first concert we attended was a Counting Crows concert because we both like Counting Crows, and I have a soft spot for the Counting Crows because there was I had a friend that we listened to them and Dave Matthews Band quite a bit, and because we had similar tastes, but I was more extreme in my taste and he was less extreme, and so the compromise usually was, you know, like a Counting Crows type thing, and I don't know, for me there's a nostalgia thing there, like that's the only reason. Like their newer stuff you're kind of like, it's a little folky and country-ish for me, but it's a nostalgia thing. And then the other one is Devil Driver. Like, there you go. Like, Devil Driver. Don't sing it. I'll get a DMCA. Don't do that, please. Devil Driver, hands down. Like, Devil Driver is literally, if they come within a 200-mile radius, I'll go see them. Every time. No questions asked. Oh, it's going to cost you $500 to go see them? Oh, sign me up. I don't care. I won't eat for a week and a half if I don't have to. Don't care.
I would save my money and do a giant ticket if Rammstein came to town. That's the one band that I was supposed to see at the Pledge of Allegiance tour, but I've never seen them live.
Guess who has
That
Rammstein
big
tickets?
I know. It was supposed to be a huge one last year. Have they announced it coming back yet?
Yep, next year. They moved it to next year. Guess who has Rage Against the Machine tickets? This guy.
Damn it!
I both tickets.
I was supposed to see them in Coachella, man.
Guess who has Hungry Children? That guy.
What? What'd you say?
I said, guess who has Hungry Children? That guy.
Not mine. No. Dude,
Guess who lives in another country?
Yeah. Well, hey.
We don't get a lot of good shows out here.
That's because you're the Republican. You're the Republican candidate.
No,
you're the Republican candidate. Thing. Nobody wants to come there.
That's the stupid thing. Is like, in our province, we are the only one with the international airport. Because we are central to most things in Alberta. We are kind of the gateway to this half of BC. So if people are going to Banff, they fly through Calgary. But Saskatoon, which has a population of 20,000 maybe. I actually don't really know, but it's really, really small. They get a lot of the big name metal shows. We don't. We get skipped over constantly. Like anytime I see Canadian tour, I sit there and I go, yeah, how much you want to bet that they're not even coming past Toronto as far as coming out west? Because rarely they do. They'll go to like Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto. If they come out west, they might go to Saskatoon or Vancouver. And I'm just like, but come on, man. Like Canada is so damn expensive to get around and you guys don't even come to like a central place. Like, come on. And we've got the good venues for it, but nope.
I'm just gonna ride some bulls.
Anyway,
you guys do.
Let's move on to our last segment, our quick save segment, because we got to wrap this up, man. We got to wrap this up. It's almost 2 hours. 2 hours. Ooh. That's we're not like David. We don't stream for hours on end. He had like a 4-hour stream the other night, and I was like, oh, that's not.
I've had 8-hour streams, and that was fun.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you ever could play a cross-play, if you could play Ghost of Tsushima cross-play with PlayStation, let me know. I will stream with you. I have my headset will work with my PS5 as long as I don't have to do it on my laptop. I don't care.
Yeah.
You cross-stream. I'll play Ghost of Tsushima with you. It's been a while, but I'll play it with you.
Hell yeah, dude. I'll hit you up.
All right, so
kill you with a stupid crossbow and you'll get pissed.
I know, he's going to just smear me.
No, we're on the same team. You and I are on the same team.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, we don't kill each other. We're going to kill everyone else.
Oh, gotcha.
It's not like Call of Duty. It's like 4 people get paired up, you get put in a scenario, and you go. So you don't got to worry about that. You and I, we're fine. You and I will be fine.
Cool.
All right. So my quick save of the week was this 1,000-foot multi-rotor floating wind catcher. And it has the ability to power 80,000 homes. And I'll tell you what, when this showed up in my Reddit thread, I didn't believe it. I was like, this is some BS. This is some BS. There ain't no way this works. But just look at it. This is amazing. Like, this is small. This doesn't affect a lot of things. Why do we not have more of these in the ocean? I'm confused here, right?
Not my backyard.
But
Even though it's not your
Norway's
backyard,
wind
it's the
catching
ocean.
system, and this is essentially this is a Norway product, has a debut. It's a colossal floating wind turbine array, and essentially can generate 5 times the annual energy of the biggest single turbine in the world. You want to know what the kicker is? The cost to produce this is so much less than to produce a turbine. It is less invasive. It can be put on the water. It's movable. It's all these other things. It's
'cause everything is
insanely
scaled
amazing.
down. There's a ton of little ones instead of one really, really hard to make big one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this technology, you can go to Home Depot and you can buy these things. You can buy those little ones at Harbor Freight. So like you just make a huge grid that catches all of that fluid that's flying through there and convert it all into kinetic energy and into. I mean, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you this will pose a threat. I mean, here's an image of where they're showing you where the airplanes versus the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it is not a small unit. This is not something that like you could just randomly put up. But to me, with the cost reduction in materials, the ability to produce more energy than the average turbine, and the ability to say, hey, we can actually utilize this as a source to power, like, and I see this as a way to get rid of like power in our nation. But if you just want to talk third world nations, can you imagine what this can do in a third world nation? That's what we should be striving towards, right? We should be working to be humanitarian to go into these third world nations and getting people this, right? Because we can also start powering things. Their computers can go all day long instead of just, for the 2 hours a day they get them. And so this idea here is just this, to me, this is a revolutionary piece or revolutionary functionality that we so sorely miss when we ignore solar and wind energy. I guess that's my quick state of the week. I was very excited by it personally.
Sweet.
No, nobody else is excited as me. All right, screw y'all. I'm going home.
I'm just wait. What? Okay, Cartman.
I'm a big fan of it. I've always been curious to see what kind of new innovative designs are coming out. Like fluid,
That is pretty awesome.
the fluid for air is 100 times less dense than water, and so I've been kind of sorely, I guess, wondering why we aren't using, because so if you imagine if you have a turbine that's 100 feet wide, you would only need one 10 feet wide or a foot wide with the same density of water flowing through it. And so utilizing the streams, the in water streams and the fluid mechanics and things that are involved in that, like the waves and stuff, it's significantly more kinetic energy and power, significantly less space. There's all kinds of really cool things you can do with fluid mechanics. And I mean, I love the wind turbine stuff. You can set it up anywhere. But if you're on the ocean, I mean, the ocean itself is way more powerful and kinetically potent than the wind systems are out there. And so, like, these systems would be really cool in places that are dry and high in wind, like in certain areas of Africa that are landlocked or whatever. Like, when I see all these things in these water arrays, it's like, why aren't they using the kinetic energy of the water? Because it's significantly higher output. But other than that, like this technology, everything in it can just be picked up and bought at wherever and taken somewhere. Because like just putting those rotors up in those giant turbines, it takes like 3 semi trucks and a bunch of civil engineers and all. I mean, it's just a huge deal. But if you get a grid like this and put one up maybe a tenth of that size in your city and power your city hall, that's cool as hell.
Buddy's quick save of the week is Arkansas woman sues trooper after tactics cause her SUV to flip and crash.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is so I put this under the more types of police brutality, some that can even affect white people. And this was one, and it really only caught my attention just because I read something in it that stuck out from a conversation that I had seen be recommended to our the Cellar Door Skeptics email from Reddit, and I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. And then I read this article, I'm like, oh, this is why that article's on Reddit. Okay, interesting. So I read through it, and essentially what had happened was this police officer was pulling somebody over for speeding, and because they didn't pull over fast enough, they did the pit, which is where they take their front right side of their bumper or whatever, and they nudge the vehicle on its rear bumper to basically interrupt its movement. And this woman ended up flipping her car, and she was pregnant at the time and had undergone thousands of dollars worth of in vitro fertilization, if I'm recalling correctly. And you know, this pregnancy was everything to her, and basically she was worried that she had lost her baby because of this. And the cops were doing what they do best, which is towing their thin blue line about how, you know, like, we have to be allowed to use this excessive force against innocent civilians, because if we can't, then think about what the bad guys are gonna, you know, get away with. And this is just something that it's
and stuff.
Yeah, and this is just making me sit there and cringe at all of the, you know, conservative bullshit that I used to spout, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my god, I totally would have justified this. I would have hated myself for it, but I would have, because that would have made more sense with the worldview that I had. But ultimately speaking, like, this is why, you know, like, defund the police is so important. You know, you're reducing the militarization, you're making them less trained for lethality, and, you know, giving the proper systems the chance to actually get involved and make the necessary changes to improve society, instead of just saying, you did something wrong. Well, it makes us feel better when we do something wrong to you, so you're going to go to jail, or, you know, we're going to assign whatever as a punishment, which, you know, kind of flies in the face of this idea that maybe, just maybe, rehabilitation is a better idea than punitive measures. But yeah, so this is just kind of something that I thought, you know, because we always talk about, you know, their gear, and, you know, yeah, they're trained, but we see a lot more of, like, their hand-to-hand combat, not necessarily, you know, something as serious and as even easier to escalate from total non-issue to somebody potentially losing their damn baby because some cop just had to prove a point that, you know, you didn't listen to my authority, therefore you might die. And this is just something that should never happen, period. So,
well, yeah, you could see in the video, and this is what pissed me off. She's not aggressive.
Yeah.
She's not causing harm to anybody else. Is she speeding? Yes. There's nobody else around. So there is no direct harm happening at all. No direct harm. Oh, get out of your car, asshole. Yeah, go see if somebody's okay. Oh, you're gonna look in the back window? What the fuck's wrong with you, asshole? You can see. Oh my god, I gotta turn this off. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm just gonna get angry.
And you know,
this
she had her.
This was a 3-minute drive.
Yeah, and the cop's rationale was she didn't pull over fast enough. And it's like, well, here's an anecdotal experience. Like, she even had her 4-ways on when he hit her. I've been pulled over for speeding a few times because I'm a male and I'm dumb. And, you know, I pulled over. I happened to be in the left-hand lane, so I just pulled off to the side. And, you know, I thought that the cop might appreciate that because, you know, as they come over to my door, they're not worrying about, you know, somebody who's not paying attention, maybe hitting them while they walk on the road. And the cop actually thanked me for being so polite, which, I mean, go figure, because, you know, looked a lot like, but whatever. And, it was, to me, it's just kind of like, as an officer who gets upset when people don't respect you being out there putting your life on the line, wouldn't you want somebody who is being considerate of you to kind of do what they're doing? Because, yeah, she would have pulled over, but he would have been half in a lane, and it's late at night, and let's face it, people don't pay a lot of attention when they drive. So, yeah, it's just another one of those, you know, you need to listen to us. We are the everything, and do what we say. Don't question. So,
yeah, it's just. How about this? It's disgusting. Disgusting. I don't have a better word for it. It angers me so much. I saw this post and I tweeted about this quite a bit, and it just, like, to me, the understanding of, you really honestly couldn't have just waited to an exit. Like, I mean, like, or why didn't you go fast enough to go in front of her and then slow down?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a better driver than that cop. Maybe. I don't know. Probably. I'm a better person than that cop. I'll tell you that. Here's hot take number 2.
There are a lot of people who are a lot better people than the cop. They're probably in prison.
Yeah. All right. David, your quick save for the week.
Yeah. So I found this one actually like about 2 weeks ago. By Jacobin. And the article is just basically about how there's no good argument for keeping the death penalty. And one thing I found interesting is, like, at the end, he basically says that death penalty is still a thing that's pretty well practiced within monarchies and dictatorships. And the overall argument that this guy was making was that he was going over, like, 2 ways of, like, looking at how to approach this. It's through a utilitarian and a retributivist. I've never heard the term retributivist. That was, like, the first time I've ever heard that term. But he went over those 2 points, and he used, like, Princess Bride as, like, an example on like means to an end on killing people and, like, fighting to the death, and it's like all fighting to the pain. Yeah, and he went over how, like, the eye to eye argument of crime and punishment is not exactly practical, in the sense that, like, if someone gouges someone's eye out and you, as a punishment, remove their eye, the person that was, like, at first, like assaulted and, like, got their eye ripped out, they're not getting anything from it anymore. There's no net positive here. The only thing you're taking away at that point is another person's vision. And when you kill someone, it is a finite decision. It's a finite thing. Like, when you send someone to prison, granted, in the United States, the prison industrial complex is not great. Some would say you're better off dead than ending up there anyway. Many drug lords have said that, for sure, in South America. But what he was saying is, God damn it. The drug lord thing just came into my head and it just robbed me. Yeah. When you send someone to prison over, like, let's say a 20-year sentence, there is a chance that within those 20 years you find evidence that clears their name and they're okay. Well, I would say very, like, yeah. And when you make a decision to finally end someone's life, that's it. There's the chances of you clearing their name are gone now because they're no longer living. And when the state has, like, control of, like, determining when someone's life is, when they decide it's going to be over, it's not exactly like a moral good thing to end up going with. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on the death penalty. I am totally against it. I don't think we have the ultimate decision, especially the state does not have the ultimate decision to determine when someone's life should be ending.
I agree with you.
It seems like it's more of an emotional response than it is an actual attempt at dealing with the problem of crime. Ironically, if we wanted to really address the crime that actually is problematic for society, we should be going after white-collar crime. But oddly enough, you just have to bribe the right people, and you can get away with that.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you, buddy, in the aspect of, what's emotional versus not emotional. Because in my world, right, if somebody molested one of my kids, my first reaction is, I'm going to kill you, right? But that's a gut reaction. That's me reacting. Yeah. And if I catch you doing it in the act, I'm definitely probably going to kill you. Or is that going to be a good thing? It's just not, right? And so, I agree with you. Like, the state making a decision on the death penalty is ridiculously stupid. We have a justice system for a reason. And even though I caught somebody red-handed, does not mean that I should be able to go through and execute them, right? Like, we live in more civil times. And hence why I'm very anti-guns, so for the most part, because people make emotional decisions that affect the rest of their lives. I am an emotional person. I will admit that. If you couldn't tell from a little bit earlier why I hate Nickelback, you are not listening to the show correctly. I am a very emotional person.
Friends we know and love.
You know how many guns I own? 0. You know why? Because I'm an emotional person. I've had depression issues in the past, and for me, it's a fail-safe to ensure that I can protect those around me no matter what happens. I won't tell you I've not done hallucinogens because that's happened before. Not saying I'd use a gun while I'm doing them, but just saying is I protect myself in an extreme amount of case, so I don't have to worry about that. And I agree with you. To me, the death penalty is so insane. It's not even funny. Like, that person could be a horrible person. Again, a child molester, horrible person. Should we execute them? What does that do for us? It does nothing for society. And I'm not saying we should enslave them and milk their labor. What I'm saying is we should work to help rehabilitate some of these people, not to put them back in the world, but to give them an ability to find better purpose. And hence, then we got to reform the justice system. Then we got to reform the prison system. Then we got to take out corporate capitalism out of the prison system, because that's what ruins everything. Because if you listen to Adam, and Adam will tell you a lot of things ruin things, but I can tell you what, corporate sponsorship or private ownership of prison systems ruins everything. Period. No questions asked. And hence why we still have the death penalty, because there's a financial gain for people in this that is insanely, it's disgusting. Ugh.
Republicans vote. Republicans vote. Young people don't. So we still have a death penalty.
Yeah. It's he made like another point on how like this literal sense of like justice, like the eye for an eye thing, where he says like, if someone's convicted of rape, the justice served is not putting them somewhere to be raped. That's wrong. I don't think that's the way to go about it. Like,
of you, sir.
Like, rehabilitation, I think, is the ultimate goal of like incarceration. Like, it should be. There should definitely be programs put in place to like help like people, like if they're a child molester, give them the programs. They're probably never going to be fully functional in society because they're probably too far down, but like there's definitely ways to like alleviate these issues. And I don't think ending someone's life clean cut like that is really solving anything. It's just it's just answering with violence and death. Like, what do you get from that?
Nothing. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's the qualm that everybody on this show has. Like, we're all in the same boat as you, man. Like, we can't stand death penalty. We've actually done multiple segments on why the death penalty is insanely awful and why it actually inhibits and essentially is racist against minorities.
Oh yeah,
because they're the ones that are affected the most by this.
Oh yeah, like the whole war on drugs, like the entire consequences of that on what it did to like marginalized groups. My God, man, like,
yep.
Ugh.
All right, Hanna, you're last. Give me some good news. You got some good news? You got NASA in there.
I got free snacks, yo. So NASA has an ebook section. If you go to their page, nasa.gov, connect ebook, we'll have the link in there. It's just a pile of free ebooks that NASA publishes, has online. So if you like to, scroll through some legitimate ebooks and stuff, like I've never seen any audiobooks in here. That's my preferred method of consuming media. But I mean, you can flip through some of this.
You can flip through some of this stuff and find quite a few handbooks, researchers' guides. They even have like this ebook on exploring the Hubble telescope, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Well, the Hubble telescope's computer just broke down, and so their 1980 CPU system just basically stopped working, and they're trying to reboot up a backup or something, and they can't get it to work. So basically, it's however many $1 million of space paperweight right now that they'll see if they get it going again. But I mean, it's been out there longer and run longer than they expected to. Like these kinds of books, all these audiobooks in here, or ebooks in here will show you just a bunch of stuff that's, you know, from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of the cool things that that NASA has discovered and is doing and constantly does. It's a really good source. So the pictures that Cassini took flying through, taking a look at through the eyes of Cassini. So looking at that's the most recent probe that went by Saturn, seeing some of the most detailed images of all the rings and things like that. Like those are cool things that you can show children, young children who are just like learning about the universe and the solar system and stuff. And like, really strong, clear, wild visuals that'll pique someone's interest for short periods of time and stuff like that. And if you want to get even more detailed, like they have full on NASA Systems Engineering Handbook. I mean, like these are the design initiatives they use for structuring their projects. So like there's some really cool stuff in here that you can use that's like a resource if you're in the scientific community, and then also just for, you know, the lay person who wants to just check out some cool pictures.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Hanna. That was a good ending. Made us feel a little bit better about the last couple segments. David, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having you on. Tell everybody real quick where they can find you.
Yeah, so on twitch.tv, DeepKick David, all one word. You can find me on Twitter, DeepKick David. If you want to follow my Instagram, it's David ALVRZZ. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I honestly really appreciate you even having me on here. It was a great time. This is like my first ever appearance on someone's show. So like it was an honor having it be with you guys. So
cherry.
Yeah, you guys did.
Oh, guys. Well, we got to be his first time.
All right. So thank you, David, for coming on. It was very appreciated. We are very appreciative that you joined us for the night. And so we learned two things. One, you don't know a lot about economic politics. So that'll be a topic for you to get to research. And I expect to be watching your show in the next couple of weeks, and you drop some knowledge on me. You'll be like, I learned about this because I was on Cellar Door Skeptics podcast, and I was like, shit, I had to say I didn't know about this, but I do now because I did some research and I became educated. And I'm going to rule these guys in their knowledge, because that's how that works.
Then that bearded guy, he yelled at me about Nickelback.
Yeah, he's going to go on there and be like, yeah, I'm listening to this song right now called Photograph, because those assholes at Cellar Door Skeptics for
my next stream
shit about it.
Exactly. My next stream is going to all be Nickelback just to spite.
And that's fine. I'll tell you what, if that's the case, message me. I'm going to come on. I'm not going to play games with you, but I'll come on and make fun of the songs you're listening to while we're streaming. I'll be the guy in the background that's like, you're like, this white guy over here with a hat on that says Michigan is made in Michigan. Like he's going to bitch about Nickelback. I'm going to play it just to piss him off. And then I'll come on. I'll be like, this song is the worst. And I'll give you a whole monologue, and you can be like, seriously, I don't know what the fuck's up with this guy. He's crazy. He's insane. He's from this podcast called Cellar Door Skeptics. I don't know what the hell it is about. But I can tell you he hates Nickelback so much he decided to give up his free time to come bitch about Nickelback on my stream. And I'm not even supposed to play Nickelback. So. All right. Yeah. With that being said, thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to be back next week with another amazing episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. We're working through what we're going to do for the holiday for the 4th of July. So just so you know, our stream either may be pre-recorded or delayed just because of the fact that it is the holiday and a couple of us are going on vacation. So we're going to work through that. But either which way, we will be back next week with another amazing episode of Cellar Door Skeptics, and with more politics, more interviews, more hard-hitting science, and a new segment from Hanna. With that being said, thank you all. Have a good night.